Hi, and thank you so much for popping by. My name is Dr. Rita Pobaluzzi, and you're most welcome to this conversation today. I happened to be reading the Mmegi newspaper this week, and I came across the cover page, which is talking about Rre Molapise being appointed as President Boko's senior advisor. This slogan of "It's our time to eat" was very popular and associated and aligned with the Botswana Democratic Party, which was the former ruling party. Now, the reason I'm talking about these two scenarios is because one thing I think President Boko should be looking to do is to differentiate himself and his leadership and his administration from the former ruling party. The reason he needs to be careful about differentiating himself from the Botswana Democratic Party image is because one of the biggest things that he was advocating for leading up to the election was to fight corruption, right? This was one of the major things that were irking Botswana, that there is way too much high level corruption. The BDP-led administration at some point was highly associated with nepotism, favoritism, partyism. The reason I'm talking about corruption in context to Rre Molapise's appointment is because from the outside, at face value, these appointments, these political appointments, may seem to the ordinary Motswana to be exactly what the Botswana Democratic Party was infamously known for, right? So these professionals that have been appointed thus far are seemingly professionals who belong to the UDC or who support the UDC and therefore are being paid for their loyalty. All well and good. But what I'm trying to reinforce is that this is exactly why the BDP lost favor with the voters. This is how the BDP lost favor with the ordinary Motswana, because it was their time to eat. And from what it looks like on face value, it looks like it's the UDC's time to eat. President Boko has to be very alert to this idea of not seeming like he is following the same patterns that were followed by the Botswana Democratic Party, because he should be intent on trying to differentiate himself from the former administration in order to gain a sense of trust with Botswana, who are still disgruntled and are still complaining about the high levels of corruption. I also made a previous clip where I was talking about the late Professor Good and the article or the book, the extracts of the book by Rre David Mahang, and how Professor Good mentioned, even before he was made a prohibited immigrant, that Botswana's political system is designed to empower the politicians. So Rre Molapise's appointment, and all of these other politically inclined appointments are likely to create the illusion that there is no difference between the UDC and the BDP-led governments, which I don't think is what Rre Boko or President Boko, is trying to show. I also mentioned this in another clip where I was talking about the tenders and how the tenders in Botswana are typically won by those who are politically inclined, people who belong to the political parties, right? And this is another system or another pattern that I believe Rre Boko needs to be conscious, President Boko, needs to be conscious about making sure that he differentiates himself from the patterns of the Botswana Democratic Party, the negative patterns of the Botswana Democratic Party. Now, I'm tempted to say President Boko may be slightly disconnected from his ethos of fighting corruption. In the manner in which he is approaching his appointment, he may be a little bit disconnected from the ethos of fighting corruption. I say this because I believe that the current and the new government, the history-making government of Botswana, should be trying to show otherwise. It should be trying to show that you can trust us. And of course, this idea of appointing people who are loyal to you is not novel, right? It's something that happens a lot. But in the case of Botswana, and in the context of why the BDP lost favor with Botswana, I would be quite hesitant if I were President Boko of doing too much of these political appointees, just to reinforce and to emphasize that, nepotism, favoritism, this kind of corruption was associated with the Botswana Democratic Party. And this is one of the reasons why the party lost favor with the masses and the voters, right? So I'm just saying that I hope that President Boko is not going to be seemingly looking or being perceived to be following the same traits of nepotism, favoritism, and partyism. I don't know if that's a word, but just choosing the people who are loyal to him, the people who are always going to be, yes, sir. Those are the kind of people that you would want to minimize in your capacity as a president, because you need the kind of people who will tell you as it is. And also, just to talk a little bit about professionalism and this idea of appointing people that are party loyalists. A lot of professionals are likely to be overlooked in Botswana because they lack political affiliation. And I think this is something that we should be trying to tone down in the new Botswana. And honestly, when you think about it, political appointees are likely to face more resistance when we are talking about eradicating corruption or eliminating corruption, right? So political appointees are likely to face more resistance because they are looking exactly like the same system that created the levels of corruption that we now see in Botswana. I think the key thing here that I really wanted to reinforce when I was reading this news coverage this week is that, President Boko needs to be very conscious of not seeming to be similar or not seeming to follow the same patterns as the Botswana Democratic Party. Alrighty, my friend, I thank you so much for popping by. I hope you are having a lovely day where you are, but most importantly, I hope you're having a healthy day wherever you're watching me from. Bye.